Well, hello again. Welcome back to the Alan Hudson podcast. Thanks very much for joining us, and season's greetings to everyone out there. Hope you have a good one. On the podcast today, well, we're making it a hat trick of goalkeepers, actually. We had John Burridge 2 weeks ago. We had Phil Parkes last week. And today we've got Dutch goalkeeper Hans Segers, who played lots of his career in England. Hans, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to it.
You've obviously got a question up your sleeve, Al, so crack on.
Well, the obvious question, the most talked about question in football today, and I'd be interested in obviously what Hans got to say, but I'd also be interested in what Cloughy would say, our friend Mr. Clough. But what do you think about these Pep Guardiola's introduced goalkeepers to get more involved in the playing? Would you agree with that, Hans?
Obviously, it's a huge part of the goalkeeping these days. You know, if you analyze goalkeeping these days, it's 70 to 75% is done by the feet, and the rest is done with the hands. So yeah, goalkeeping has changed. So I agree that that all that your training, your managers, that they want to see a goalkeeper who can play and pass from the back. But on the other hand, I'm a bit old-fashioned in that way as well. At the end of the day, goalkeepers will get judged for keeping the ball out of the net.
Yeah.
So for me, all the top goalkeepers, the best thing what they're good at is they keep the thing out of the net, and that's why they, what I said earlier, that's why they get judged on. But for me, if they can play football from the back and opening, or they do the counter attack, it's for me is a huge bonus. But for me as well, at the end of the day, is the goalkeeper is there to keep the ball out of the net. So
yeah,
that's where I come from. Yeah.
Yeah. I spoke to Pat Jennings about it. He said, "You pass it back to me, you're not going to get the return. Let's go in 60 yards up the field." Phil Parkes said the same. Alex Stepney said the same. But what interests me, it's like with an outfield player, is say the coach or head coach, manager says to you, Hans, I want you to get involved in this passing and sort of fall back. And you said, what would happen if you said, I don't agree, I'm uncomfortable with that?
If you say that, let's say back in Holland, and my goalkeeper goes to the coach and he said, "No, coach, I'm not agreeing this." If you say something, you have to build it up. What's the reason for that? And one of the reasons you could say is, it's also a part of the game. You have to read the game. If you're under pressure or your back four is not comfortable on that evening with the ball or that afternoon, I say to my goalkeeper, you have to read the game. If they feel not right on that moment in the game, punt it, forward, or if you're in doubt, shoot it out. So I'll leave it to the goalkeeper. If he feels, I'm comfortable and the back four looks good, or your 6 or 8 comes for the ball, play it. But you have to read the game. If they have a man on the back and put a lot of pressure on, don't play it. You ask for trouble. You ask for trouble. So, at the end of the day, for me, clean sheets are holy. Clean sheets wins games. Why should you take any risk, in big games? I can't see. I just can't see that why goalkeepers, play week in, week out in big games and take so much risk. At the end of the day, you have to take the percentage. How many goals you score from keeping your possession from the back and build off from the back, and how many you're going to concede. So for me, is I'd rather see the ball on the other side of the pitch, and if we make a mistake, let's do it there and not in front of the 18-yard box.
Absolutely. I think we agree. And I also see a statistic the other night with Chelsea were playing, and it had the top 6 players in possession this season, and the 6 players were all centre halves. And the top of the list was Dunk at Brighton. He had the most touches. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is, when I was playing, the fewer touches our defender had, the better. Not the most. It's turned around now. You know, playing from the back is okay, but too many passes at the back. And that's the fact. I see a game last night, Fulham, and the ball was knocked through to the kid, Smith Rowe, and it was a nice ball through to him. They were now 1-1 and on the attack. And he turned around and passed it back to the left back, and the left back passed it to the centre, and they were back. And now by this time he'd done that, Newcastle had got 11 men back.
Yeah.
I can't see that. I really, I can't see how the Fulham coach can allow that to happen.
Yeah, for me as well. You know, if you play from the back, you let the opposition, what you just said, Alan, you come in the organization, you know, there is no surprise. You know, it's like a game of chess. You know, you go open from the right and there's no space there. Then you go to the other side and you wait till you got the opposition, you know, get them going left and right till you got the space to play in. And you know, it takes sometimes so long, and you know, especially in Holland, you know, they love to playing from the back, but you know, you don't create anything. And how often you know, this is back in the Wimbledon days, they say how more often you come in the 18-yard box, so more chances you create and how many goals you scored. So so that's it's a bit old-fashioned, but I think it still works. You know, I'm looking at my own team. We get so many balls, you know, put in the box now, and now we start scoring. And in the previous 2-3 months, we get 2 chances a game. You know, we got 10 goals in 12 games, and now we got 10 goals in 3 games. So just, you know, change the tactics to get the ball so early as possible in the 18-yard box.
Hans, before I ask you a question, Hans, Al, I think you've got the sun streaming through the window, and the picture's not great on your phone. Maybe you can adjust that while I ask Hans a question. Now, of course, you're coaching at FC Eindhoven in the Dutch second division these days, Hans. But yeah. I want to go back to the beginning of your career. You started off at PSV Eindhoven, and then you come over to Forest in 1984, and you're signed by a certain Brian Clough.
Correct.
Now, tell us about that and how that all transpired.
Obviously, I was when I was at PSV Eindhoven, you know, months and months before that, we signed Hans van Breukelen, and Hans was obviously the goalkeeper last 2 years from Nottingham Forest. So, but he had problems with Cloughy because Cloughy didn't allow him, and that was that time. If the Dutch team, the national team, played international midweek, or you know, he wouldn't let Hans go to the Dutch games, Cloughy. So they had to put the second goalkeeper in there. So Hans wasn't happy with that because the national team for him was very important. So so then PSV signed him. Yeah, PSV that time was one of the best clubs in Eindhoven. They did well in Europe. So I was slightly disappointed. I was hoping to be the first team goalkeeper there, but I was only a youngster. So so I could also understand that they were going to go for an international one. So I trained with Hans, and one day he said, Hans, by the way, Forest are still looking for a goalkeeper. So Hans, this is could you make the phone call, because this is for me a dream come true. If I can go to England, you know, I always watched match of the day on the Saturday night when I was a youngster, and I absolutely loved it. Loved the crowd, they loved the passion. So so Hans made the call, and Cloughy said, "Yeah, let him come here." So I had a trial initially for 2 weeks, but after 3 days he said, "You know, Hans, I like you. You know, you can stay." And that was it. And the first year I went from PSV to Nottingham Forest on loan. And I came in the team after 3 months, and my first match was Coventry away, and the team didn't won for 7 games, and we won the game 3-1, my first game, and yeah, then it took off.
You was there 8 years?
No, I was with Forest 4 years.
4 years.
4 years, yeah.
And what was your relationship like with Brian Clough?
Brian was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Obviously, when I was in Holland, obviously, I saw interviews on BBC about him. So then I met him, and it was unbelievable. I think Alan Hill picked me up from East Midlands Airport, so we went to the office. And Brian's in his office. He had his legs crossed over on the desk. I said, "Hello, young man, how are you?" I said, "Very well." And he starts, smacking me both kisses on both cheeks. Oh, well, this is a bit weird. So, but here we go.
There we go.
But it was good. He was open. He was funny. My English wasn't that good that time, I must admit. So we got quite lost in the dialect from Nottingham. But I enjoyed it. 2-3 days there, and then he came up to me and said, "I really like you, Dutchman, and you can stay." So, and that was it. And then 2 weeks later, my girlfriend came over, and also my wife now. And so she came over. So we went over in the office, introduced her to Cloughy. So again, he gave me 2 big, massive kisses on both cheeks, and he shook hands with my missus. And I thought, that's a bit weird. So, but here we go. That was the introduction to Cloughy, and obvious, in these 4 years I had there, I've got 1 or 2, great stories with Cloughy. So I don't know if you want to hear them.
Tell us the stories. Hang on now. We got to hear the Cloughy stories.
I think we're gonna hear the Cloughy stories, but one of the Forest keepers is very famous now on doing all the podcasts on telling Cloughy stories about himself. But
I've seen him.
Carry on.
Yeah, no, I see quite a bit of Mark Crossley bits and pieces, and and I recognize the things he said. I've got sometimes tears in my eyes because what Cloughy, what he says is completely true. The silliest things I've seen and witnessed. I've never seen anything like it, and. But that's why he was, I think, very special, because every player you talk to, he was, I wouldn't say he was tactical, very strong, but every player went through fire through him. They wanted to do everything for him. And that made him, that's why he was so good, Cloughy.
What's your best Cloughy story then?
I've got a couple. So there was one day he called all the. Because we were sitting in the change room and we heard from Liam O'Kane. He was doing the youth team that time with Archie, and Cloughy called all the apprentices in. This was October, November, and he called all the apprentices, and the apprentice had to go on the bus and they had to go to his house in Derby. So it's about 25 kids went on the bus, and they drove up to Derby. So Cloughy went with his own car, and he stood there, and he gave every apprentice a rake. So, and then all the players come off. 25 rakes, and all the players had. So they went to his garden, and his garden was massive. And so for about 2-3 hours, they took all the leaves out of his garden. So when it was nice and tidy, Cloughy, that was your training jets. And they went back on the bus, went to the training ground, they had lunch, and that was it. That was their training session, cleaning his garden out. It was, and I thought, I can't believe this. So, it's, they call it slavery now, child slavery, I think. So that was one thing I witnessed, when I was there. The other one, I was on the bus. We went to West Ham. Yeah, we went to West Ham, and Cloughy didn't like traveling the day before, so he preferred to travel in the morning. So the game was at 3:00. So we drove up in the morning. So we're coming down the M1. And then it goes over to the M25. And there is a stretch between junction 24 and 25 on the M25. That's about, I would say, about 4 or 5 mile track. And Albert, our coach driver, said, we're coming to 24. Albert said to Cloughy, boss, there's a massive traffic jam here. We're never going to make West Ham. And, and there was obviously 3 lanes and 1 lane was coned off. So he said, Albert, open the effing door. So the gaffer went out and he took 10 cones away from the motorway. Bump. So he took them all away. Bum, 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 bum. Albert, in here. Bum. So Albert drove the bus on the other side. He put 10 cones back on the lane again. And there we went on the outside lane, all on our own. And all these cars, all these people are seeing me looking, what's this going on? Because it was all going off. So now we're coming towards the junction 25. I see a police car coming straight on the bus foot. He threw the car in front of us. And the boss said, Albert, open the door. Cloughy went out, had a chat with the boys in blue for a couple of minutes. And we had a police escort all the way to West Ham United. And I thought, Cloughy, you are a legend, an absolute legend. Not in Nottingham, not only in Nottingham, but also in the country. So that was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I saw. When the police car threw it in front of the bus, and then we got a police escort all the way to West Ham. I thought that was amazing. So, the boys were cracking up. They'd never seen anything like it, So, but it was good. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the time with Cloughy.
Well, some things like that are something that your admiration for the man goes up, and you think, I want to play for this fella. He's a forward-thinking man. He's a very intelligent man, Brian, wasn't he? And to do something like that is not only funny, but it's great for the team, because they got a manager that won't. A lot of managers just sit there in the traffic jam, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and just accept it when not this man. And for some reason, he got away with it, and that was the amazing thing. If I see interviews with Cloughy and the stories obvious Mark is telling. And for some reason, people accept it and laugh about it. The things I've seen on television, when he smacked a supporter, straight on his head, and the supporter 2 days later comes to Cloughy and he's apologizing. The supporting is apologizing, Cloughy. Yeah, that's something unbelievable. That's
yeah.
But that's the respect he had, Cloughy, not only from the players, but, also from all the staff, from the people in Nottingham, but also, also around the country. It was a really, really, what I said, a strong personality. And I love them. Absolutely love them.
I can see why people love playing for him. But years before Brian Clough, I remember a time there was a story told about Bill Shankly. He was late for training. It was a traffic jam again, and he was late. And he went on the hard shoulder, and he was doing about 70 up the hard shoulder, and the police stopped him. And he told the policeman to get on with his other things, because he had to get to training. He said, I'm a manager of the best team in the country, and if I stay in that traffic, I'll be late. And the players will have something other. So get on with your job. Just go and do something more important. And he just wooed him away, and off he went. And But that's great character, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's another thing just occurred to me that about I heard the story I heard about when they signed Justin Fashanu. That was just a year before me. And one of the players told me that Justin wanted to do some extra training. And so he went to Cloughy. He said, boss, I want to do some extra training. Can I go to the training ground? I'll take a goalkeeper with me and do some extra training. He said, no, young man, you're not going to train. He said, boss, I want to train. I want to get even better. No, you're not going to train. It's private property. And if you go, I'll get you arrested. So Justin, how he is, he took a bag of balls and went to the training ground. He took one of the apprentice goalkeeper with him. And what happens? He starts there hitting balls to the goalkeeper, and all of a sudden, who turns up? The police. And it took Justin with him up private property. So he got arrested by Cloughy to do some extra training. and there's some things like that, you can't imagine that now these days. You just, but then, things what he was up to was absolutely brilliant.
There was also a story about Justin Fashanu, which I think we can tell on here. He's been paid a lot of money. Did he pay £1 million for Justin Fashanu?
Yeah, I think 909.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, he's in the office with Justin Fashanu. He's sitting at his desk, and Peter Taylor comes in. He said, "Boss, I need a word with you." He said, "Well, tell me." He said, "Is there a new player?" He said, "No." He said, "Please, this is private." And he took Brian outside, and they went outside, and he said, "Do you know you've just signed?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "He scored a great goal the other week. A great player." He went, "No." He said, "I've heard he's gay." So Brian Clough said, "All right, well, he's gay. As long as he scored goals, what's it matter?" He goes back in there, and Peter Taylor goes back in. He said, "Peter's just told me so about you. Don't worry about it." So he said, "I'll see you in training tomorrow." And as he got up, Brian walked round the table and kissed him on the cheek and said, "Don't be late." As he kissed him on the cheek. And now only Cloughy could do that to a player like that, And obviously it ended up in tears, didn't it? Because poor old Justin, we know what happened to him, and it was it was very sad. But I suppose what would happen? What happened to you when you left Cloughy? You moved to another manager?
Yeah, I signed for Wimbledon, and that time the manager was Bobby Gold.
So there's a big difference.
A huge difference. But for me, Bobby was still a young manager. And obvious, Cloughy has been around for already. I won the European Cup and all that. So my Bobby that time was quite a new manager. Different look on football. But he had also his strengths. Because he had a group of players there with big personalities, huge personalities. I'm talking about in the Vinnie Jones and Keith Gill, John Scales, Big Fash, Alan Cork. So there's some big personalities in, but for some reason, he got them going as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
So you actually played with both Fashanu brothers, didn't you? You played with Justin at Forest and John at Wimbledon.
No, I missed Justin because he was there a year before me. But when Justin obviously died, I was that time a teammate from John. So and it was a tough time also for John. I remember the time well. He spoke to the group, John, to the Wimbledon boys. From listen, this and this has happened. Please, I only want to talk about it now, but that's it, lads. I just don't want to talk about anything else. This is the 2 minutes I have now with you guys, and that'll be it. So, and the boys just left it as it is. Then, we appreciate what John wanted, and that was it, really.
So you joined the club just after they won the FA Cup, didn't you?
Yeah, correct.
Would you have been the replacement for Dave Besson?
Yes, yeah. He obviously went to Newcastle. Yeah, Dave went to Newcastle. They had another goalkeeper when the season started. I remember his name was Ron Green. Yeah. And,
Rob Green.
No, Ron Green. It was a goalkeeper. I never heard of him. He came from nowhere. So they played 5 matches, and then they signed me in the end of August or beginning of September. So my first game was at home against Everton. I remember this very well, because I had to take the free kicks outside my box. That was something unusual, not for the Wimbledon goalkeepers, but for other goalkeepers that time, yes. So I punted it upfield, and from there had an assist, and the Fash, put the ball behind Neville Southall. So we won the game 2-1, and that was it really. I was the favour with the crowd because my first kick went straight to Fash and they scored. So that was a great openings game for me. So remember that day very well. So good times.
So for you, those were the times before they had an assist for that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it was very unusual for that time to, Dave did it obvious, to take free kicks outside the box and around the halfway line. So, I was going to do the same, and I'm looking back now. I was there for 8 years. So
well, that's what I meant. Yeah, the 8-year thing. But I go to Wimbledon pretty often now. I was going to ask you, did they ask you back?
I went back about 6 months ago. I was invited by Wimbledon to. They had a Friday night, the night before. They had supporters from all over Europe coming. So I was doing a question and answer session on the Friday night in the pub at the stadium. And then I got, walk on the pitch. I was introduced the crowd on the pitch. That was good.
Yeah.
And they won the game 1-0, I think it was. So, had a great weekend.
Very good. Very good. I mean, they're... I don't really know what to call Wimbledon because they were such a good side. And when they won the cup, they had some really good individuals, and then they all left and it all went pear-shaped, didn't it? Obviously the owner was, who was the chairman that time? That time, was it?
Sam Aman.
Sam Aman.
Yeah.
Now, it's a good club now. It's well run, and they're doing very well. I go there and get looked after. They're good people, but they're still at war with MK.
No, and that was always the problem in all these years as well. We had to, because the crowds were, they were very poor. So what they had to do, they had to balance the book all the time. So every year, our best 1 or 2 players got sold.
Yeah.
And that goes well for 5-6 years, but then all of a sudden, then you haven't got the players, the 2, 3, 4 million that time, and now you're in trouble. That's what's Sam Aman occurred, and that's why he sold the club.
Yeah.
And really, when they sold the club to I think were the Norwegians first. From there it went downhill, and so it's a combination of the two. We obviously didn't have the same quality players where we could sell on, and obviously the new owner, and as nearly all owners see it as a business, and not as a hobby anymore. So and that was the problem.
What is your views, Hans, on the national team there now, with the World Cup coming up and everything else?
The national team, I think they can blow hot and cold.
Yeah.
I've seen games where they play really, really well, and then they can make it difficult for everybody. But then I see them play against some Mickey Mouse country, and then they really are really struggling. So, so don't know if I'm honest, Alan. So they could do really well. Could go to the quarter semi-finals. Will they win it? No.
And did you ever come across the great Johan?
I played against him. Yes. When Johan, there was in '84. I was a goalkeeper at PSV, and Johan was player at Feyenoord that time.
Right.
He was at Ajax. He all played 1 year at Feyenoord, and Feyenoord, I think they were champions as well that year. So I played against him. So that was a real because everybody is looking and obviously still thinks that Johan Cruyff was the best player, obvious in
Well,
Holland, but obvious for me in the top 3 in the world as well.
it's when you're. It was probably the only time I'd want to be in goal when Johan's playing, because you know how difficult when you're an outfield player. I played against him in 1970. He was with Ajax, and then I played against him in Washington in '78.
Oh yeah,
and I played and '79. I think at Los Angeles as well. And he was just out of this world. It was out of this world. It was no other words for it. You know, he's incredible player.
Yeah.
Well, Alan, just tell us about, because he was wearing the number 14, wasn't he? And that sort of that grabbed your attention, didn't it?
Well, the thing is about it, we'd gone on a pre-season tour and we were in Amsterdam, and I think it might have been the year that they were really pushing Heineken. And we were downtown in the red light district or in the bar there, and we had a few beers thinking, well, this is going to be a walkover tomorrow. Ajax, we never heard of. There were jokes flying about. They were washing up liquid. They're a team with this and that. And the day comes of the game, and we come out, and they were, it's total football all over the place. And first thing we thought of, the substitute don't look that good. The number 14, we thought he was a substitute. So we said, well, he won't be playing. So next thing you know, they've kicked off and he's still on the field. And well, he was a wizard, wasn't he? And all the laughing and joking stopped then, because and we just wished we hadn't been on the Heineken the night before, because he ran a dragon. I mean, what a player, what a manager, what a career, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I look at programs from Barcelona, and if you see the style of play from Barcelona is still the style of Johan Cruyff. He puts the seeds there, and they still, they're still breeding, youth all the time from there. So with the same style, football, what Johan did 40 years ago.
Yeah. I thought it very sad the other week. I watched Ajax play in the Johan Cruyff Stadium, and they were poor.
Ajax on the moment are really struggling, and it really started from the top. Your chairman, your directors, and it just drips down to the players, the technical managers, mismanagement. Some expensive players they got there, not doing what they wanted to do. So it's a big struggle there. They picked the last few weeks. They picked some good results up, but. But before that, it was really, really poor. Really poor.
A sad event, yeah.
Hans, can I ask you? Alan asked about Johan Cruyff. I'm a big Chelsea fan, and to me, I've never seen a player as talented as Ruud Gullit in a Chelsea shirt. You must have had dealings with Ruud in the past.
I played with Ruud when I was under 17s at the national level. So, and Ruud, when he was 17, he was the same height, build, what he was playing at Chelsea. So he was really stood out, above everybody. And then you already could see at that age that he was going to be a world beater. He was, because he started off as a winger. That's what I remember. He was right winger. And then obviously they transferred him down the back, but strong, quick, could play, could head, great knowledge. So and obviously he proved that. He's been everywhere. He's less successful as a manager, but as a player, he's done nearly everything.
Yeah. But with the interesting thing with me was the Dutch international team, like in 1996 when we played them along the way, where we had Terry Venables in charge. Yeah. There always seemed to be problem in the camp with Holland. Yeah.
Obvious in the previous one, yes. Yeah, there was always two groups, and that was always the problem. With Ronald Koeman as the head coach at the moment, I think what I hear, he's done okay. He's done well. They've got a good group. So in that way, there was no problems in the camp.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, time will tell if they do well in the US. So, but what I hear from here, it's the camp is good. They're all looking forward to the World Championship. So let's go for it.
Yeah, will you be there?
I'll be there because my son works for New York City. He's there, the fitness coach. So I'll be in the summer. I will go to New York and watch a few games with him.
Wonderful. What a trip. Yeah.
It's a great trip. Yeah,
I might see you there with a little bit of luck. My son's the national team coach of Thailand.
Okay, yeah.
And they've got to win the Asia Cup to qualify or whatever. So they got a big game in March. I'll go over for that, and maybe we might meet up in New York with a bit of luck.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Let me know.
Yes, I will. I'll keep you in touch with that one.
I get you Heineken.
I don't think so, mate.
Did you ever come close to winning a cap for Holland, Hans?
Let's see. No, because at PSV, when I played there the last 3-4 months, I think we finished second after when Feyenoord were champions. So regarding cup, no, because I was only 22 when I played in goal at PSV, and then obviously I went to England. So and the closest I came in England in the FA Cup was semi-final with Wolves. At Wolves we played Arsenal. And we lost 1-0. So that's the closest I come.
So yeah. I was referring to a cap, not a cup.
Oh, sorry.
Did you ever come close to winning a cap for Holland?
No, there was obviously a lot of talk about because because I had a great spell at Wimbledon, and people, especially in England, were surprised. Are you been not called up by the Dutch team? I said, no, I haven't done anything. Obviously, when I was a youngster, when I was with Ruud Gullit and Erwin Koeman, I was involved and with the national side on the 17s. But now, since I moved to England, really, I haven't heard anything. So, but it's that's the way it goes. So now, I'm not sleeping less over it. So, I had an absolute great time. The best thing that ever happened to me is going to England. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going to come to England, who better than Brian Clough?
That's it, and I'm playing for the crazy gang for 8 years. That was, if you look back at it, great time, absolute great time.
Yeah.
How crazy were the crazy gang?
If we're doing things now where we did that time, we will get arrested.
We don't, yeah.
Who was the leader of the pack? Was it Vinny? Was it Dennis Wise?
We obviously you had the Vinny of Wise, of course. Fash was he was a leader in that as well. Alan Cork, he was always involved in pranks. But at the end we had a committee, for pranks, especially when new players are coming in, they get an initiation, and that could vary from different things. So if you look at mine was quite. No, that time I was shitting myself, but because in the first week, nothing happened really, and then the second week we went to Sheffield United, and so we went on a Friday night. So we stayed in the hotel. We had dinner. So we sat down, and about 9:30, I said to the boys, "Lads, I'm going upstairs. Big game tomorrow." So went upstairs, opened in my hotel room, and I looked inside the place, and it's like a bomb has been exploded in there. They've done my wound literally, and I looked at it, I can't believe it. But strange thing was, my window was wide open. I thought, was the window wide open? And so I looked around and said, "Oh bloody hell, my bed is gone." I said, no, it can't be. And so I was free up, and I looked down, and you can guess, yes, they chucked the bed out. So I phoned up the reception, said, listen, my bed's gone missing, but I found it. It's on the bottom of the hotel. So can I get another bed? So got another bed. So they were very good, the hotel. Sent me an invoice for that. And then the boys on Monday gave me all a tenner to compensate for the bed. Absolute brilliant.
Well,
there must have been some players in that era. I mean, obviously you took it well, but there must have been some newcomers who came into the squad that maybe didn't take pranks like that too well. Well, can you give us any instances?
I must say, I think all the players had to take it. They had to take it. They had to take it if you will come to Wimbledon, because when you sign for Wimbledon, there is a reputation going in that club, and you have to be prepared for things like that. So, but that was, so that was not the worst thing. For me, the worst thing was Dean Holsworth. Dino came to the club. He came in his black BMW to the training ground, and we thought, you flash geezer, you come here, because I think Brentford that time was second division, and obviously we were in the Premier League first division, or he was in League 3 or 4, so it doesn't make any difference. So he came, you flash bastard, so that's where I was going. So one day, opposite the training ground is Richmond Park. So, and a few times we will go to Richmond Park. It's a big public park. You probably know it. It's massive. Sometimes we're doing the warming up there. So about 10-15 minutes into the warming up, we do some stretching, and all of a sudden, 20 players are diving on Dean Holsworth. Boom. Took everything away. His shirt, his trousers, his pants, his socks, his shoes. He is standing there bollock naked in the public park. And all the boys running back to the training ground. So he had to go all the way back from there to the training ground to get some new gear. Now, if you do that now, you probably, what I said earlier, you probably get arrested.
Well, you would, yeah. I mean, it's that really is a little bit over the top, even for Dennis Wise and people like that, But obviously, great times. You can see why they did well. But it would also make you be very, very much on your toes when you go in the dressing room, yeah?
Yes, because, if you had I remember we played a game and we came back in a changing room, and we had an Irishman in the team, Kenny Cunningham. I don't know if you remember the name, Kenny Cunningham.
Fullback.
Yeah, fullback, correct. And Kenny had a green jacket on, being Irish, he loved his green, obvious. And then he came back in the changing room, and they put his sleeves, they cut his sleeves off. So he had now he had a waistcoat. And so it's, something like that. What the boys were up to was unbelievable. So, and you're not allowed to wear white socks underneath a suit. And that, if you had white socks, they were cut straight away. So, bad ties, cut straight away. So, well, you said, Alan, you have to be on your toes. What you're wearing, because the crazy one was also the fashion police. If it's not right, they cut everything. So,
yeah.
Mark, you mentioned Mark Crossley earlier. He tells the story about, I don't know whether you would have been at Wimbledon or Forest at the time, but he tells the Cloughy story about the ghetto blaster in a dressing room. Are you aware of that story?
I'm aware of that story, yes.
So give us your slant on that, because some people have questioned the validity of Crossley's account of that story.
Yeah, because we had always problem with the ghetto blaster, because Wimbledon was the first team to get the ghetto blaster out, and we had at two clubs we had big problems. That was at Forest and at Spurs. So, but I'll start with the Forest actually. You know, when Mark said about Alan had to come into the changing room and put the sound down. So yeah, obvious Alan did that a couple of times. So and being Vinny, he will put it even louder. So to really piss them off. So the only thing what I can't remember, because I might have been on the pitch already, that Cloughy took the stereo and I smashed it up. That's I can't confirm that. I can't disagree or agree with that, because I wasn't there. Because we had always a couple of the ghetto blasters. The other one was Spurs when Daniel Levy was the chairman. So and Levy just hated it, to be loud music in, because we had it just on the door where the hall is, where everybody was walking, sponsors, and it was full blast. So what he did is he told the groundsman to turn off the electricity from the changing room. So all of a sudden, all the ghetto blaster, bomb, gone dead. So and Vinny went absolutely mad, and he saw one of the apprentice at Spurs. He said, "Sam, come over here." He said, "You got 20 quid. Get us these 6 massive batteries just around the corner." Newsagent. So the lad went to the newsagent, got us 6 batteries. He put us in the ghetto blaster, and he would go again.
But that's how again.
That was funny. Yeah, that was funny. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it would be my cup of tea, but I'm mad enough at Chelsea, Hans. But was there any way that when you finished your career, you wanted to stay in England to coach or anything like that? Did you want to go home?
Yeah, that's After obvious, I finished my career at. I was at Wolves for 2 years, and then I got a phone call from Spurs if I wanted to be a part-time goalkeeper coach, working with Pat Jennings, because Pat was there.
Yeah.
And it was a bit much for Pat, to look after 3 or 4 goalkeepers, obviously with all the serving. So I was there, the third goalkeeper, and I was doing helping Pat out, because I was doing a lot of coaching anyway. I worked with Bob Wilson. He had his own goalkeeping academy, so I did the coaching with him quite a bit. So I had experience. So then I did that for 1 year, and then Spurs offered me the deal as a goalkeeping coach. So because I could still play, I remember that Charlton came in for me. Barry Hearns phoned me up. He was the chairman there. Said, I liked you. Could you come as a goalkeeper? I was 38 at that time, and I thought by myself, I have to look in the future, and I love coaching. So I took the job as a coach at Spurs, and I did that for 7 years. So 7-8 years, yeah. So. Did 8 years at Spurs. Then I went back to Holland. I got an offer from PC Eindhoven as a goalkeeping coach. Did that for 3 years. And then I had a phone call from Martin Jol. And obviously with Martin Jol, I worked together at Spurs. And he rang me, said, "Hans, I need a goalkeeping coach at Fulham." And my contract was actually finished at PSV. So, Martin, I would love to. So I did 3 years at Fulham as a coach with the first team, and after 3 years I went back to Holland, and I've done goalkeeping coaching ever since. So, and still do.
Wonderful, great career. You got a great career, a mixture of tulips in Amsterdam and everything else at Wimbledon. Christ almighty! Imagine Wimbledon going over to based in Holland and doing the tricks that they do now, what they used to do. Imagine a Wimbledon over there. It couldn't happen, could it?
I've still got a few tricks up my sleeve here. So, but the funny thing is, everybody knows straight away it's me. I'm always the guilty one, because back in the days it was normally they're not used to the players. So when something happens, they always, there's Hansi again. He's done it again. So, and I must admit, 9 out of 10 they're right.
Absolutely, yeah. Prime suspect, aren't you? But
Yeah.
who is the best player in Holland now?
Oh, I think you got a few actually. I like the goalkeeper, Verbrugge,
Yeah.
from Brighton. I think the guy from Sunderland, Roofs, he's called into the squad as well. I think them two will be the next goalkeepers for the next 10 years for Holland. So we got Reinders at midfield. I think he's a very good player, and obviously you got Memphis Depay. He goes hot and cold. I've
Yeah,
seen him.
it's very in and out. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I've seen him things doing wow. He's a world beater, and then see him for 2 matches not doing nothing. But obviously he can play. That guy can play. He's been around, but it's just on the day with him, and you can't tell, and that's the problem with him. Like for example, Ronaldo and Messi. You know exactly what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with him. You don't know what you get. So,
I must ask you one thing about probably the name that crops up most in conversation here about foreign players coming in, and his time at Chelsea was quite incredible. Bogart,
yes, yeah, I know him.
is he still about?
He is still about. The last time when I saw him, he was working at Ajax. He was working at Ajax. Yeah. So I'm not sure what he's doing now, but talk about 2 years ago. But I remember the time with him. That he was living in Holland. I don't know if you know this, Al. He was living in Holland and traveled every day up. He went to Schiphol Airport, got the plane every morning, landed at Heathrow. From there, he went to the training ground because he was on a 5-year deal. And after 2 years, the manager or the club didn't want to know him. But because he wanted to keep his money. Lived in Holland, traveled up to, and went back again. That's what he did for 3 years, I think.
That was a time I went back to Chelsea for a while, and probably what was so handy for him, they trained at a place called Harlington, and that was right next door to Heathrow Airport, wasn't it?
That's right, and
he made quite a name for himself. But I was explaining to someone the other day, they were trying to put him down, and I see him play for Holland in a World Cup qualifying match. I think it was at Goodison Park against the Irish, and he was fantastic. I thought he was going to be the best in the world. He was, and then he come to Chelsea, and he kind of, it was like he was taking the money, and he was happy just to sit around.
Yeah, obviously I can't talk for him, but some players, I can see it myself now. Some players, when they go somewhere, they do very well, and then you think, when he was at my club at PSV or somewhere else, he didn't do anything. But then he goes to another club, he gets a trust from the manager. The environment is good, and all of a sudden he's a different player. And then you think, was he the same player we had? No, and probably yeah. You see that so often, yeah.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Sometimes it's you just can't explain. You can't explain where one player is rubbish at one team, and then he goes to another transfer and he's brilliant there. And sometimes things in football, you just can't explain.
They're baffling, aren't they? You can't. I can understand why people make it at some clubs and not others. You down to the coach or the manager or whatever. But
I think you're right, Alan. Or the style of play, or you get more appreciated by the club or the manager. Whatever it is. I've seen it all before. Many players.
What's the future of your club now? Where are you heading? Are you doing well?
No, we average, I would say. This is a small club. It's a breeding club. You know, if they do well here, and all the players know that, and the club as well. You know, when they do well there, they move on.
They
They
go
move
on.
on. One of the players we had here was, I don't know if you know him, because he just joined Oxford United. The Kiersmaker, Brian
No.
de Kiersmaker, midfielder. You know,
Yeah.
he was at FC Eindhoven with me 3 years ago. Really did well. Went to the Dutch Eredivisie, so Premier League in Holland. Played there for 2 years, and now he moved to England, to Oxford, for €3 million. So that's why you can see, you know, if they do well at this club, you know, they move on, and the club knows that, and everybody knows that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we have to accept that. And obvious, the good thing about the Dutch championship, you can't relegate. So so that's the yeah, that's a good thing about the teams when they play in the play here.
Yeah. Great. How about any English players? Have you ever had any English players come over to your
No,
team?
the problem is the system here. When you are taking a player outside the EU, they have to earn, in the division where we play. They have to earn 250,000. And if they play in the Premier League in Holland, they have to earn nearly £500,000. And for the Holland market, that's a huge amount of money. So you don't see a lot of English players coming down to England, and that's a shame, because it would be nice to you know, to get some English mentality into the teams, because I think the Dutch mentality is a lot different than the English mentality.
Yeah. But it's amazing how things turn around. You know, we lived in the times with as I say, the great Ajax team when they took off. You know, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just load my phone. I'm nearly out, guys. Hold on.
Well, it's probably time to call a halt
Okay.
to the pot. We've taken up probably far too much of your time, Hans. It's been great having you on. Great
It's
to hear
no
your
problem.
stories.
Good to see you guys. Good to see you.
And
you.
continued good luck with your coaching at FC Eindhoven.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll keep New York in mind, Hans.
Yeah. Okay, Al. You've got my phone number, so yeah, give us a call, and then I'll meet up.
Wonderful, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Hans.
It's a pleasure. Cheers, guys.